So I've been a little bit reluctant to make a video because I haven't made one in a while, and I just don't really want to try and think too hard about trying to find some magical introduction to this video. I just wanted to kind of simply share my thoughts on what's going on right now. I had this kind of question in my mind, like, what is going on at the moment? I feel like, where is the world going? And questions revolving around this. I also haven't done a video on the channel, so I kind of want to talk about a little bit later on. I'll talk about some of the stuff that's been going on behind the scenes and just share some of that. I've been offline for quite a while because, well, we've had summer vacation, so most people have been kind of taking time off. I've been also taking time off from YouTube and making videos because there's other stuff besides that in life. I just wanted to get the camera out like this. This is my old one. I just wanted to try it out, and I had wanted to air out some thoughts that I've had over the last few months or weeks. Even had a little bit of fear about making a video, so I can't guarantee where it's going to go. We're just gonna hit record and we'll just see where it goes. So I can't really guarantee anything. It's a lovely day at the moment, and I thought we'd just take a walk and talk, basically. Simple, nothing complicated. So there's been kind of a lot going on lately, which has kind of been a little bit overwhelming. I mean, maybe it's generally the case every decade that there's always something going on. Like if you switch on the news or you go online or something, you're going to find something where something's going on in the world, whether that's, a good thing or a bad thing. But I just kind of find it a little bit overwhelming sometimes with like how much is going on. And it kind of makes me feel like, well, sometimes it's not so bad living under a rock, for some people. If you don't follow the channel, you might have noticed I make a lot of off-grid content. So like how to get yourself off-grid and DIY solar. Another theme I've been exploring recently is basically collecting water. So that's like a whole theme, which I'll get into a little bit later. But that's been really interesting. I've been learning a lot of things, but I've noticed that it's not necessarily the niche of my channel. And I've been noticing that with the YouTube algorithm, I felt a lot of pressure to try and produce content that fits my audience niche. And it really feels like a pressure because, you've got your YouTube views and you can look at that. And YouTube in general, in my opinion, is just getting so heavily saturated and so competitive. It almost feels like you post something and you don't know whether it's going to be a flop or not. Another thing that I've been kind of psychologically dealing with is the whole dating site. So the whole dating world, which I don't really want to express too much because I don't feel like it's really necessary to explain all of my personal life all the time on the internet. But I still wanted to put it out there that it's still sometimes, there's always stuff going on behind the scenes besides just what you see, like on the first glance of somebody's YouTube channel, or it's like, you judge the book by its cover, but you don't actually know what went into making the book or what's going on right now with that person. And I'm not expecting people to follow everything I do. But I feel like it's getting harder and harder to put your voice out there. Maybe your video, for example, if you talk about something that is quite a sensitive topic, it gets censored. And that's definitely a theme that's happening on YouTube. And not just YouTube, but many other sites, like the whole internet with the whole age restriction thing, how they're basically slowly asking for government ID to access a lot of content on the internet, which is a whole topic in itself. But my general thought about this is like, it just feels like there's so much going on and you just kind of want to switch off the TV. I mean, and the hard part about that is that your phone is constantly in your pocket for most people, and you can constantly be connected with what's going on, which is kind of a good and a bad thing. It's good to know about what's going on in your local area. It's good to keep kind of up to date on what's going on politically a little bit, so that, we can help try and get things moved or try and get movements going. But at the same time, it's just so, I really crave for simplicity in my life. And I feel like I get a lot of judgment for living in a very simple manner with simple things. I mean, I've made some videos about that already, where, you know, you can see my off-grid cabin and living off in an off-grid sense. But I mean, I even feel a little bit of this pressure, like I'm supposed to keep on the tip of my tongue with like interesting things to say, and I have to go and get my phone out to make sure I've got a list of things and stuff to stick to. But this is completely unscripted. I want to talk like a normal human being. Of course, it's a little bit weird to talk to a camera, but I have done it for many years, and I'm quite used to it by now, which a lot of people aren't, but I am. I kind of miss this feeling of like the good old days where you would go on the internet or YouTube and you would kind of just explore and see where it takes you. I used to do more videos like this, but they just don't do that well in the algorithm. So there's no incentive to make more content like this, even though people might relate to it more because it's like more authentic or might drive comments. For whatever reason, my YouTube algorithm, if you will, or my audience's niche, whenever I upload something, it doesn't seem to perform that well. And YouTube is quite strongly focusing on performance. I mean, it's when you go to Google right now, you just search for anything. It's becoming increasingly more difficult to find what you're looking for. I use a lot of the AI programs like ChatGPT, Grok. There are others out there. And it's actually quicker to find and search for things using those AI systems. Of course, there's some downsides about that. I'm fully aware that, like, if you use an AI to search for stuff, it means that the creator or the person the blogger or whatever, who made that article, who made that video, took the time to find out and discover that information, they will not get the benefit of somebody seeing the ads or seeing the information on their network. And then it basically doesn't help fund the person and their passion. And yeah, it's kind of a bit of a bummer that that's the direction, but it's weird because I'm also part of the consumerism where you prefer to find information as quickly as possible and not waste your time on the internet. Like, you just want to find the information and get back to your project that you're working on or whatever, daily life, whatever you're dealing with or doing. And you want to just kind of get results kind of quick. And that's the kind of vibe I'm feeling. Like, everything's becoming quite quick in 2025. There's all these themes being talked about, like the loneliness epidemic and stuff like that. How people, it's an epoch that we're going through where people still feel very lonely, even though we're in the most connected time in human history. I can email somebody over in China in a few seconds and get a response the next day, which is just mind-blowing. And it used to be all done by letters, like 100 years ago, even maybe a little bit more, but still, like, there's a lot of change going on. It's so rapid. And I feel like there's these micro cultures or micro climates, you could say, on the internet. So you'll be kind of just immersed in your world, in your bubble, and then suddenly somebody that you meet either online or in real life is actually in a different bubble, and they give you some insights, or, you know, it's like, whoa, I didn't even know that was going on. And I just want to kind of focus on simple things. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Studio Ghibli and Hayao Miyazaki's films, and the way that he captured such simplicity in life is so beautiful. And I mean, a lot of people find those films, I guess, to be quite boring these days. The pacing is something that we're not used to, the pacing of the film and the storyline and stuff. And we're just not used to it, you know, that's that speed. But that was normal back then. Like, black and white films, they feel very outdated because of the pacing, and things don't move as fast as what we're used to. And I don't know, maybe it is a good thing to slow down a bit, you know, deconnect a bit. Yes, you're not going to be fully up to date with everything, but at least, I don't know. And I've never found a place to put these kind of videos. I've never found a place to really, yes, I can start a new branch of YouTube channel, but there's also a complication there that every time you start a new one, you've got to rebuild that audience. You've got to kind of build up your email listing, let's say, your audience again, you've got to, you're basically starting from scratch whether that's the audience or the ad revenue, you're starting from scratch again. And of course, there's this dreamy idea of like, have a YouTube channel and have it fund everything and then just kind of have it as passive income, which kind of works. But at the moment in 2025, YouTube's becoming so heavily saturated. You've got like probably thousands upon hundreds of thousands of channels that are already at 1 million subscribers with millions of views, maybe possibly per month or every 3 months or so. And it's getting hard to compete against that. Yes, there's a lot of small channels kind of still doing okay. Like mine, it's ticking along, let's say. I'm still able to put stuff out there, but I'm still having to kind of fit my videos to a narrative. And I found it quite hard to sometimes find a balance between putting my voice out there, putting out a genuine review on something, and share the good and the bad about that thing. And obviously, sponsors and advertisers prefer when you talk about it in a very positive sense. The thing is, I get both sides of the story. Like on the one hand, it's really difficult to make videos, to make a product, and then get it, on the shelves and make a livelihood out of making these products. And maybe your product is really good or even half good. But at the same time, it's really hard to, because it's so competitive and it moves so fast, it's just so hard to kind of keep up with everything. Personally, I'm always looking to make sure that I put out videos and acquires any kind of sponsorships. I always mark it. So you'll see at the top left, I believe, of the video, you'll see if the video was sponsored or not. And sponsored is really quite a over exaggeration, really, because it's usually just you receive a product, you make a review about that product. It depends on what the brand is willing to offer, obviously. But I'm just trying to tell you behind the scenes, it's still important to find products that fit your passion, and then you can sell products which fit within your passion. And there's plenty of products I've received which really do actually, which I personally feel have added a lot of benefit into my life. Like, for example, a lot of the DIY solar stuff and the electric e-bike kits, a lot of it I was quite skeptical at first. I'm actually being genuine about this. So I feel like it's harder to find on YouTube these days. But you've got to remember, like, there's always this motive, like, if I've received a product, you've also got to try and sell that product. It's an incentive for the creator, it's an incentive for the brand, it's an incentive, for you finding it as well. I try and be as honest as possible in all of the videos, and I've only had 1 or 2 instances where I feel like I could have said things differently, and the narrative was hard to put my actual opinions about everything about those products. But it's really making me wonder, and I'm trying to apply that kind of a strong, honest philosophy on each video that I'm making, because I feel like I can help these brands to put out their products, because some of them are genuinely actually pretty good. And then they suddenly make a new product, which is kind of a test to see how it goes. And it might not be as successful as their previous product, but it's still worth talking about. And I'm always coming from the perspective, like, it's quite hard to actually fabricate these products, like try and build a battery from scratch. Like, you can do it, but like I'm talking about, get the electrolytes and store those electrolytes within a special cylindrical shell, and then build the battery packs, then market it and ship it. I mean, we kind of forget all of that process. It's like when we go down to the supermarket, we're just very used to the fact that we go to the supermarket, we pick out the items we want, and then we leave. And we just expect that we've paid for everything, and it's just voila, it's as simple as that. But actually there's a whole process behind making that thing. It's the same thing when you're watching a film or reading a book or something like that. So to recapitulate, it's just important to remember that there's a history and a story where these products come from. And I'm always in quite a lot of gratitude when I find it, a decent deal on something, and I'm aware of like how much that item costs, and there's a cost to make it, and you can tell whenever it feels kind of out of balance when the product is being oversold for what it's worth. You can generally, as a viewer, you can find that out very easily just by reading through the lines a little bit. But a lot of the stuff I've been affiliated with on my channel, I've really stuck by it because there's only 1 or 2 products where I've been like, not so happy with them. But generally speaking, I've been quite happy with 90% of the products I've been working with and using. I even use still a lot of them. Like for my DIY off-grid setup, I've got several batteries from Lead Time and Red Audio, and those batteries are still working great. There's basically been nothing wrong with them. I'm running a mini and a Group 31 size battery together, which is not necessarily the way to do it, but it actually works as long as you get the voltage right. But my point is that, like, it's possible to find sponsors that you resonate with, and you feel like, yes, I can genuinely support and back your product because I've got a history with it, and I feel like I just needed to mention something that, yes, in order to create sustainability on the channel, I need to find some sponsorships now and then with the videos I want to make, to put food on the table, and YouTube, like I said, is becoming increasingly harder to create a living. Actually, it's really competitive, even if you want to do it passively. Like sometimes I want to take 1 or 2 months off to just do something else, to focus on other passions. Because, for example, my channel started off as bike packing for a long time, and bike packing is all fun and all, but there's also other facets about life, and I wanted to share other aspects of that, and hence why it's been nice to explore the off-grid stuff and the electric bike conversion kits and stuff, which has been really fun. But it's been quite difficult to also advance with finding other sponsorships that can work out. If you can find a balance between the amount of affiliate sales that you're making, the YouTube ad revenue, and then the products that you receive, which can maybe be quite beneficial to your daily life. For example, the off-grid solar means that I put less strain on the electric bills and the electric system, the grid. And now I've also been exploring that into the water side of things. So I've been exploring basically how can I get myself completely more sufficient when it comes to the water, because I get plenty of water which falls off the roof. Like, I live in south of France, it rains plenty around this area, and still we get a decent amount of sun. It's quite a decent spot actually for both. Exploring using tanks to kind of collect that water. How do I get the water clean enough to basically shower with? How do I get the water clean enough to, brush your teeth, clean the dishes, stuff like that. But I've also been researching for drinking water, and that's actually a lot harder than it sounds, believe it or not. And one of the things I've been researching about is RO systems, so reverse osmosis. So you might see some videos about that in the future. I've also been exploring how to get a DIY solar, or heated, I should say, shower system. And I've made some improvements to that. So, because I've made some previous videos on how I did it, but I've actually discovered some more little things along the way. Like, I've been using a heating rod to heat up the water in a bucket. And then I just put that in the shower. I bought a shower cubicle fairly recently, installed that, learned about plumbing. That was fun. Learned about leaks and how to try and stop them. And this is all coming from like not knowing anything about that. And it's really, that's the whole point with off-grid, is like you learn these things yourself and you give yourself the time to learn those things. Obviously, the big one is how do you grow your own food? So electricity, fairly doable. Water, fairly doable again to get that off-grid. Growing your own food, that's the major hard one to tackle. And it's definitely in my mind, like all of this off-grid stuff, and then you think about food. It would be fun, to do that, but it is quite difficult, to be honest. It becomes a full-time job. Some people have cracked the code on how to do that, but it's definitely, for example, if you make enough money online, for example, whether that's making videos, selling products, or whatever you do online, I don't know, there's lots of different stuff out there. You find a way to bring in some revenue through that, and then you can go to the supermarket and buy just the essentials. And that's basically what I do. I just buy only the essentials. Obviously, you have to give yourself sometimes a special treat now and then. That's why I don't mind buying myself beer and some chocolate now and then, because you need that in your life. And yeah, so there's things which I will slowly post on the channel, but it has been hard to find the motivation to put my voice out there, to share my real thoughts and what's going on. Just because there's so much going on, I think people don't have the time. That's one thing. And I'm pretty sure that the length of these videos can really creep into basically podcast territory. And I get that for most people, they just don't have the time. They just don't have the time. They've got a job, maybe they've got kids, they're married, working. I don't know. Like there's a lot of stuff going on, you know. And that's the beauty of like living out here. I mean, it's peaceful, you know. I like the countryside just as much as the mountains or the sea, you know, like nature just in general. And a lot of people are searching for specific things and places, but what about finding a way to find happiness or to be content or at peace about where you are already? That would save a lot of time, you know? And then there's this whole materialistic thing. I've been noticing that with the dating world. Like, I feel like I'm putting my profile out there and it feels like it's just a CV or a resume. And if I've got, you know, a certain amount of things, whether that's materialistic or academic, then suddenly that makes me more desirable or something. And so sometimes I'm just feeling like a lot of external pressures and judgments to get things done at a certain point in my life. That's another thing. And it just feels like a bit much, really. And I haven't been finding it so easy what society's going through at the moment. I don't know if other people feel this same shift, but I feel like there's something going on. It happened around 2020. And I don't want to say that it affiliates with, you know, that whole thing that everybody went through in 2020. I don't think it's related only solely to that movement. And I don't want to give it any credit for what it was or is. I think it was all whatever. I don't want to share my opinion about that. What I want to focus on is more, you know, finding a place to just talk about real things that are going on, but in a kind of casual, relaxed sense. There's no guarantee that I can put more things like this out there. There's no guarantee for that, really. Maybe I'll just find snippets of something in this video. I'm enjoying my walk. It's nice. It's quiet. And I've been trying my best to help other people get off grid and learning how to do it themselves, like the whole DIY thing. Like making your bike into an electric bike is actually very practical. Like a lot of people are still skeptical about it, which I think is such a shame because it can be such a practical tool. Just see it as like buying a hammer or an axe, or a knife. It's the same. It's just a tool. Like try not to have too much of an opinion about it. Like, would you rather have a car or have an e-bike? Because an e-bike is certainly gonna be less impact on the environment. If you don't have a driver's license, you can use an e-bike, for example. And I can vouch for them. They really do work. Like you can go up for social events, you can carry more equipment, you can carry more cargo on the bike, and you can still get a little bit of exercise. You're getting more exercise than you would sitting in a car. And the only thing is obviously when it rains, it's more preferable to not ride in the rain, but you know, it depends what you're doing and where you're going as to whether that's important or not. But I've been using these e-bikes alongside regular bikes for ages now. several years, and they've been working really well, you know. And I can really vouch for the Yoast Power system I've been using. Been very happy with it. Does the job. Just it's a really good value for money. And I'm not trying to sell the product. Well, how do I say that? I'm not trying to forcibly sell the product. Like, I just genuinely actually use the product, and I would recommend it. That's as simple as that. Does it support the channel if people click the affiliate link? Yes, but if you're going to make that purchase anyway, and I've helped you make that decision, that's great, you know. You're also supporting the channel at no extra cost to you. That's the benefit of doing that. And some people need to, you know, put food on the table. Like this there is an incentive or motivation to at least try and make a buck online, you know. And it is getting harder. I think some aspects of it are getting easier. Like I'll give you an example. When it comes to the AI stuff, you can take the audio from this track, for example, you can put it through the Adobe Podcast Enhance feature, and it'll just magically improve it, you know, and it'll make it sound much more clearer and more higher quality than you would just using the regular microphone on your phone, for example. And that's using the power of the AI stuff. So there's plenty of useful stuff with the AI stuff. And I use it for a lot of different researching things and stuff like that. However, I think there's also a lot of worrying stuff about it. Like the way that ChatGPT's dialogue has changed over the years, the way it talks, the way it answers things. It just doesn't feel the same way. And that's only changed in the last year or so. Like, that's how rapid it moves. Now Grok, I think, has the upper hand because it's a lot more unhinged. It actually, you know, can give you useful information and still be like share less of its biased opinion about something, which I definitely prefer. It still promotes a lot of services within its network, which is kind of funny to me. Because it's just obvious. It's just obvious that it's doing it. There's a lot of stuff been going on in France with a lot of these movements at the moment. The Bloquons Tout, which is like a whole big giant movement been going on. And I think it's a good thing generally, but it can get a little bit overwhelming at times because there's just so much news being just put out there all the time. And it's sometimes really depressing, you know, like there was a really big fire in Aude, which is a département just east of us, and it was really sad because this wildfire just ravaged like a huge, beautiful area of southern France, and it's not clear how it was started. You know, there's a lot of conspiracies around that. Let's just say if they start putting up solar panels, that's a worrying sign, to be honest. And I feel like there's a lot of good stuff being moved through with the EU. And at the same time, there's a lot of stuff that feels very troublesome. You know, the EU for me was this whole movement of like, let's have freedom of movement. You know, that's the main thing as a young individual. Then we had Brexit for British people, which wasn't great. And so let's say for me and my parents, if we want to live here in France, just an example, we now need to have residency permits, which we didn't need before. So we're going through this silly facade of the administration, even though we were living here before with no issues, able to work, no issues. I mean, my parents are retired, but even that's a bit of a debacle, sorting that out as well. Sometimes you just want to focus on something really random and small. Like I play a lot of cover songs with my guitar, and I'll sometimes I'll go out to a local market and sing on the street. And I practice a new song now and then, like let's say one new song, I don't know, every 2 weeks or so. I'm pretty casual about it. And I've got a decent repertoire. I sing a variety of different things acoustically. I do like classical music, but over the years, most people have a higher preference to having music that they relate to, and classical music is like, you can't really, there's not a lot of dancing possibilities. You can't sing along with classical music. So it's kind of the better benefit when you do more lyrical songs. I'd love to focus on, at some point, writing my own material. I have done a little bit of that, but it's just takes a lot of time and effort, and it's always this battle between finding a balance between what you feel would fit individuals and others, and what you personally feel is beneficial for you and what you feel is a priority. But doing a mixture of French and English, because I live in France, it was just the easiest option. Long story short, after Brexit, it was the easiest option, and to remain within the EU. I've not seen a lot of progress with where the hell the UK is going at the moment. It's very vague. If, for example, doors opened up to make it easier to go and live and work in other Anglophone places and countries, that would be interesting. But to be honest, I think France is just the nicer option for now. You do need to learn the language. You do need to speak French to live here for long term. It needs a strong word, but it really is pretty necessary. That's what I've learned. And yeah, that's a benefit to living here. Over the last 5 years or so, or 6 years, I can have a conversation and have fluent conversations with people in French, which is really nice. It's still not my native tongue. So I just accept the fact that you're not going to sound 100% native all the time. It's a huge request, to be honest. And if people demand that out of you, you might want to go and hang out with some other people, honestly. Probably why I don't have that many friends, but I've got plenty of cats, but that's covered. And I got a few human friends, so, you know. And then we've got the whole AI stuff. So in the future, you won't even need to have human friends. You can have artificial friends. Isn't that going to be great? You can have an artificial girlfriend. That's going to be great, right? I'm being sarcastic in case the text doesn't come off correctly. Just to be clear, I definitely prefer human connections over just artificial ones created online. I can't believe that there are chats on Telegram, I believe, or maybe it's actually, I forget which one, but I think it's Messenger, where you can chat constantly to a fake, like an AI bot. It's just insane. Like, there's a certain point where personally, I wouldn't want to do that. If it's for information, using it as a virtual assistant to run your business, creative stuff like that, that's fine. I'm okay with that personally. But if it's to do with like human connection and what morally feels right, or just something that you feel, I don't know how to describe it, but there's some things, for example, this, I could have asked the AI for advice on what do you think the topic should be? And a part of me felt so resistant to that, because it's like, I just want to be a human. And humans are kind of rambly. We don't really make much sense sometimes. And yes, you can script yourself, which helps. But there is a place to just express yourself. And once upon a time, YouTube used to feel more like that. It feels less and less like that, because everything's built around attention and watch time. And I feel that pressure. I feel that pressure to make sure that my videos are edited in a certain way. So for the videos which I post about product reviews or something like that, or tutorials or something like that, it's going to be edited. It's going to try and attract or fit to people's needs, because they might not have the time. But there's definitely something that feels like it's nice to just sometimes just listen to this stuff in the background. Like I genuinely like finding, for example, there's people kind of doing this style where they just sit in a car or on their couch and they just talk about stuff, and they share their opinions about a theme or a topic. Love that. Really like that style. I want to see more of that on YouTube. I want to see more videos like that. Kind of feel like it would have been nicer to have YouTube kind of split into different categories, because right now the YouTube Shorts is being heavily pushed. It's good and bad at the same time, because I found some funny videos on YouTube Shorts. But other than that, I personally am coming from a generation that doesn't really relate to YouTube Shorts and these very short, very quick videos. I prefer long-term content. I just prefer finding the little snippets of information I like within that, or listening to something in the background, podcasts and that kind of thing. And even music. Like, I prefer a lot of music which was done in the past, which is becoming outdated and being replaced by a different style. And I've not been so keen on how the style of music is going right now in 2025. You even get like AI music popping up, which is just weird. Like, it's like a lot of stuff on your phone is really hijacking the mind. You just open it up and you feel like everything about the experience is designed to hook you, is designed to, I would borderline say, manipulate, even to the point where it's filled with distractions, endless distractions. Even in a business sense, you know, the way that Gmail has like this scroll down and it refreshes and it tries to find new stuff, you know. There's a lot of weird psychological tricks and hacks that are going on your phone, and it shouldn't be like that. It should just be very plain and simple, you know. I kind of crave for a simpler internet, really, and I feel like everything's being hidden behind smoke and mirrors, and I don't know. And even I feel like like we're not being our true selves on the internet these days. You have a choice to, obviously you can. However, it kind of feels like a bit of a struggle to find that balance. Most of the time on YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, all these social media outlets, they're just kind of masks that we wear. And even if we go out into the real world, we're kind of wearing these kind of metaphorical masks everywhere we go. Maybe not everybody's doing that, which is great for them, but I kind of feel like we wear these masks sometimes to protect our real thoughts, because it's hard to be vulnerable. It's hard to put yourself out there and to just not care or not worry. And I think sometimes we do care what people think and you know, I could worry all I want about whether, for example, whether this bloody autofocus is going to work. Is it going to work? I don't know. But I think the main point is what I'm saying, and just hearing that, and just forget the rest. I try my best to use whatever I have around me. Like, this is the best camera I've got I can use to film this with, and I'm using the best audio quality I can get. But other than that, just focus on the thing itself, what you know, whatever you're talking about. And this is just like I said, it's just the behind the scenes, talking about, you know, what's going on behind the scenes of the one good road kind of thing. Just authentically enjoying the content is already a good step. Or leave a comment, you know. How do you feel things are going in the world at the moment? I'm just throwing stuff to the wall, and we'll just see what sticks, what might sound interesting to people. At the same time, just wanting to cover some of, like, I'm still, you know, there. I'm just preferring to take a bit of a distance from the internet space sometimes, especially when it comes to putting content out there. I've not found it very enjoyable how Instagram operates these days. It's just become a place where it's a highlight reel of everything we do, and it's not really, you know, capturing the full spectrum of who somebody is, and all the nuances and all the behind the scenes of what the struggles they go through. And like I briefly mentioned about the dating thing, but I could go on and on and on about that. I've talked with my father about the psychological strain that have to battle with that. And I just don't feel like the internet is really a place for that. It doesn't feel like that now, because it feels so censored. It feels harder to like, you know, the time when you used to send emails to people on AOL, or maybe people do this on Discord chats now. But there was a time when I used to play quite a few video games, and it was quite a nice way to meet people online, actually. But I feel like it's becoming increasingly more difficult for me as an individual, I don't know for others, but for me as an individual to find others that I connect with. Because I then start sharing, whether it's about philosophy or music or a love of sport, like hiking. I don't mean competitive sport, but I mean just like activities like, you know, getting out there into nature and doing some sort of active sport at the same time. And I have been wondering, well, where is the avenue for that, you know? Because one thing was couch surfing, but couch surfing took a massive hit in the last 5 years or so, and I feel like the quality of people on there now, it's changed. Like, people just kind of want something out of the experience very, very kind of like abruptly sometimes, and it's becoming harder to find genuine stuff on there through the connections and people you meet. And you've got to be mindful if you're a consumer, like what is my impact, you know, because it does have an impact. If somebody says like, oh yeah, we should meet up, and then they kind of don't show up or they change their plans last minute, that affects the community, because as a host, you're like, I don't know if I want to host that person again. Why would I want to host people who don't want to, you know, stick to the plan, or at least, you know, have the decency to tell me beforehand, you know, like, I don't know if that relates to everybody, but there was a whole amazing community on Couchsurfing, and I feel like it was destroyed in the last few years, or some people have tried to destroy it. And I feel like we've seen other sites emerge, like couches.org, Trust Roots, Warm Showers is still going, other hosting sites which are, you know, which is still a way to kind of connect. And I've also consider myself quite an introvert. So while I'm extrovert when I express myself, as you can see, like, here's me expressing my thoughts quite easily. But at the same time, it's not so easy for me to go to group events or large things, like especially festivals. I've never been a fan of them. I just find them very loud and obnoxious, and I can't find people I connect with, because they genuinely like being in those spaces, and I don't. I prefer something more quiet, more tranquil, like a refuge in the mountains, for example. That's more preferable. Couch surfing is a more one-to-one experience, so that's nice. I feel like I could just go on and on and on, but at some point the video has to stop. So that's it for now. Like, subscribe, and let me know what you think down in the comments. Leave your thoughts down below. I will read through them. Hope to see you in the next video.